Well, a very good morning to you. It's June 22nd, 2022. It's Wednesday. This is how we're going to begin today here on AM Prime on WESNCC. We'll tell you what's happening in the second hour of the program. We're talking with Leo Ramkissoon. He's the president of the Fire Services Association. Of course, you know, that has to do with the continuing negotiations, if you want to call it that, within the CPO and the unions representing workers in the public sector. He's from the Fire Services Association. We'll get to what he has to say, given the discussions taking place as they go on, as these negotiations go on. Of course, we have your staples to look around the region. We're going to Guyana again this morning, where they lifted COVID-19 testing requirements for travelers. We get a report from News Source Guyana. Also, we're hoping to be speaking with Mr. David West, the director of the Police Complaints Authority. They have one of two investigations going on into that incident which you saw a couple of days ago with police officers kicking a man while he was being arrested. And they said that there's this report which said that the man spat in the face of one of them. But is that exactly the kind of behavior that should take place when somebody is being placed under arrest? We want to find out from Mr. West what his inquiry is seeking to reveal, if the Professional Standards Bureau and the Police Service is having their own inquiry. But of course, he's an independent organization and he's free to do that. But the parameters of his investigation are what are going to interest us this morning when we speak to him. Of course, the COVID-19 update today, plus the situation regarding Newsday question and responses. We're hoping to be talking with Opposition Senator David Naked, his sixth attempt at getting the Director of Public Prosecutions to respond to him on a matter in the public domain, in the criminal agenda. We'll try and hook up with him in a moment, but that's going to be the rundown, those things and more this morning. Stay with us. We're coming back.
People of Blanchisseuse and environs, something big is coming your way. Be part of the initial membership drive for the establishment of the North Coast Credit Union Cooperative Society Limited this Sunday, 26th June at 2 p.m. sharp at the Blanchisseuse Community Center. Walk with $100 and your ID card. For more information, call 783-1971.
Knowing how to tell authentic is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Find it, match it, search it. Step 1. Find the style number on the tag. Step 2. Match the style number inside the jersey with the number on the tag. Step 3. Search it. A quick Google search of the style number will verify the jersey is authentic when the search results match the jersey being searched. Don't be fooled by counterfeit jerseys. Before you buy, remember to find it, match it, search it.
Fan Zone, 2 locations nationwide. Center City Mall, Chaguanas and Movietown, Port of Spain. Nationwide delivery available.
What's the best way to grab the attention of viewers?
Please exercise more patience. You have to be kidding me.
Doing what we do best.
I'll say at the very least it's a conspiracy of laziness against the people.
Join me, Keaton Shaw.
And me, Sean Michael Small, for Talking Point.
Weekdays from 8 a.m. to 9:30 a.m.
We go in-depth on the trending issues and engage the most controversial newsmakers
as we get them to account to the people for their actions.
You can't go to the government with nothing. You can't go to cabinet with an empty hand, with a wish.
I'm glad that we're having this a sober, mature discussion.
In the present situation, I expect a continuation of the chaos.
Join us for the discussion, Mondays to Fridays,
only on WESN,
the content capital.
If you live with someone who's tested positive for COVID-19 and has to self-isolate at home, take care of them from a distance and reduce their movement around the house. Give them space, a designated space, and open those windows. If you have to be in contact, mask up, both of you. If you work, stay home from work and don't go out, not even to the grocery or pharmacy. And remember, no visitors allowed. Limit the contact to limit the spread.
The Trinidad and Tobago Red Cross Society. Mission-based, people-focused, community-driven.
burning questions, urgent topics, welcome back to One on One, the show where we tackle the most current and pertinent subjects that are affecting all citizens, where we ask the hard questions and have in-depth conversations. What separates One on One from other talk shows is that the conversation stems from a younger perspective on topics that affect the fabric of our society. One on One, Wednesdays at 10 a.m. on WESN Content Capital.
Let your voice be heard. Call Madam Fix It on WESN, the only place that effectively helps you with your woes. Having problems getting onto government agencies, water woes, NIS and pension problems, potholes, and much, much more. Call me, Madam Fix It, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, right here on WESN. Let me fix it for you.
What's the best way to grab the attention of viewers?
Please exercise more patience. You have to be kidding me.
Doing what we do best.
I'll say at the very least it's a conspiracy of laziness against the people.
Join me, Keaton Shaw.
And me, Sean Michael Small, for Talking Point.
Weekdays from 8 a.m. to 9:30 a.m.
We go in-depth on the trending issues and engage the most controversial newsmakers
as we get them to account to the people for their actions.
You can't go to the government with nothing. You can't go to cabinet with an empty hand, with a wish.
I'm glad that we're having this a sober, mature discussion.
In the present situation, I expect a continuation of the chaos.
Join us for the discussion, Mondays to Fridays,
only on WESN,
the Content Capital.
The best for your baby is at dbesttoys.com. We have the best strollers, car seats, walkers, feeding accessories, playpens, cribs, clothing, and the widest range of brand name toys like Barbie, Hot Wheels, Nerf, LOL, Fisher Price, Cocomelon, Intex pools, Amazon Fire tablets, HP and Gateway laptops, and the best bikes, scooters, skateboards, and ride-on. Visit us in-store at 7 Main Road, McBean, or shop online now at dbesttoys.com. That's dbesttoys.com. We have the best toys at the best prices.
There's a taste in the air everywhere. Feel the vibe cause it's something to share. Smooth, rich and creamy, you'll find it right here. Makes you smile, relax a while, it's fun and good cheer. Ooh, enjoy every scoop. Ooh, every taste will get you hooked. We have flavors that you love, a combination special. Come along, enjoy your treats. This is Uncle Pete's.
Every word, every line, every paragraph depicts a real moment in someone's life. A father, a sister, a mother, a brother. We at Newsday are dedicated to you, the people, and through independent, unwavering journalism, strive to always bring your stories to life. Because your stories are more than just words. Newsday, independent and credible.
The issue, the continued rise in the price of flour and its impact on the cost of living in Trinidad and Tobago. How should we go about it? I want to ask you, what has been revealed to you about the state of vulnerability in the country because of this exercise and because of what we're going through? Is the government losing the war and the vaccine front?
The discussion should revolve around the common good for the greatest number of people in Trinidad and Tobago.
How do we inculcate a sense of respect and regard for people who may not be of your own political ilk or persuasion?
The communities are now being used by political opportunists. So
when the tables are turned, it's the same way. Okay, this has been 10 Questions. I'm Andy Johnson, and we'll see you next time.
Join me, Sule A. Joseph, as I delve into the day-to-day psychological issues plaguing our society. We will discuss behaviors that encompass the biological influences, social pressures, and environmental factors that affect how you think, act, and feel. Sight, Thursdays at 11 a.m. only on WESN, Content Capital.
We're on set with a strength and conditioning coach. His name is Mr. Gregory Seal, and he's going to talk to us a little bit about what strength and conditioning means.
For instance, in the EPL or the La Liga, where it's so high, and I'm constantly hearing young people saying that they want to play in these leagues, but these leagues are demanding physically. So if you're not preparing your bodies for that early, you're not going to make it. But we also use it as a form of fatigue monitoring.
What's up, Doc? Tuesdays and Thursdays here on WESN, Content Capital.
All right, welcome back to the program. With us now, well, he's been there holding on for a little while, David Nakid, member of the opposition in the Senate. He's written a 6th letter to the Director of Public Prosecutions to get information and to get a forward movement on a matter. We're talking with him about that. Good morning, good to see you.
Good morning, Brother Andy. How are you?
Very good, thanks, man. So let's just tell our viewers what this issue is about.
Well, concerning the six letters, it's about what, as you said, in the public domain, it's the misbehavior in public office by probably our three most important public office holders. Well, definitely two of them. That is the President, Paula Mayweek, and Prime Minister Keith Rowley. To the extent that Keith Rowley admitted that he was the one who intercepted the merit list. And as we know, that is a constitutional mandate and cannot be intercepted by anyone once it is given to the president.
Right, so it has to do with it. That's the matter having to do with the screwed up appointment or the attempts to appoint a new police commissioner, right?
Exactly, it's for the appointment of the police commissioner. And what is so grave, what is so horrifying, Andy, is that these are independent institutions. And once our independent institutions are compromised, we're going to see the kind of chaos that we are seeing in Trinidad and Tobago socially now. With crimes, the crime rate skyrocketing, there's no trust in the protective services at all by the public. You spoke about that unfortunate incident at the Queen's Park Savannah. And all of this goes back to the impunity that the Prime Minister, Keith Rowley, has shown towards our independent institutions. And it deserves an investigation, Brother Andy. At least, given all the information that is in the public domain, at least an investigation is warranted. And that is what I have called upon the DPP, Mr. Roger Gaspard, at least to initiate.
So the letter was calling on him initially to initiate an investigation into the conduct and the behavior of these office holders.
Exactly. And we have precedent for that. You know, people say, well, I should contact the acting commissioner of police, McDonald Jacob. And I think it would be almost foolhardy, counterproductive, to ask the person who benefited from that illegal action by Keith Rowley and Paula Mayweek and Dristy Prasad. It would be counterproductive to, indeed, unintelligent, to ask that person who benefited to initiate the legal investigation. And there's precedent for asking the Director of Public Prosecution to ask the police, and it's within the ambit of his office, to ask the police to begin and launch an investigation. He can. There's precedent for that in several cases where judges there were cases against the state judges. They have asked the DPP to launch investigation or to ask the TTS to initiate investigation.
Right. And so when might have been the first letter to the DPP?
Oh, at least over almost 4 months ago, Brother Andy. And I followed up, of course, consistently with the letters. And every letter I have raised very salient points as to why it is so important for the people of Trinidad and Tobago to have this investigation take place. I think if we, as a young democratic country, cannot hold our most important public office holders to account, then who are we to hold to account? Only the poor and working class people who sometimes, because of their straitened circumstances, they have to commit crime. Now, no one is condoning crime at all. We have to be severe with any crime doer or people who get involved in crime. But we have to remember that these highest public office holders, they send a message to the public at large. They are the so-called guardians of the gate, and they are the ones that set the example for the country.
And
there's no higher public office holder than Keith Rowley, the Prime Minister. And by his action, he essentially, Brother Andy, has unfortunately bullied the President of the Republic into withdrawing a merit list. And I want people to understand what that means. That means that a process that is constitutionally mandated has been abrogated, it has been broken, it has been undermined. That is breaking the law. So Prime Minister Keith Rowley has broken the law by his action.
All right, explain your conclusion that he's bullied Her Excellency.
Well, I will let you know that my very close friend and lawyer, who is Wayne Sturge, best lawyer in Trinidad and Tobago, in my opinion, had given me a sterling recommendation of the president when I asked about her career and so forth. To know that a merit list, which is documented, reached her hand, was placed in her hands by another independent institution, which is the Police Service Commission. And then the Prime Minister to admit that he was the one who met and withdrew and caused that merit list to be withdrawn. That is a serious indictment against the President of the Republic. In other words, she did not fulfill her mandate constitutionally. So she also broke the law. I, in my opinion, refuse to believe that she did this on her own. As a matter of fact, it is now documented by Keith Rowley that she did not. So I would prefer to think that this proud, wonderful, beautiful African woman with such a sterling career behind her was bullied by Keith Christopher Rowley into withdrawing that merit list that was handed to her. She had no choice, Brother Andy, after that merit was handed to her, than to give it to the Parliament. Any concerns that Keith Rowley had to be ventilated in Parliament. But he was so afraid that his will, in other words, we have the inclinations here of a dictator. He so wanted his will to be carried out that he withdrew the merit list, breaking the law, undermining the Constitution, and bullying the President into doing so.
Now, on the face of it, it wasn't necessary, because if the matter would have been decided on the basis of a majority in the Parliament, the government has that. And with the appointment of the previous police commissioner, that's what happened. About 4 nominees and candidates came before the Parliament, and they were rejected until they appointed the person in whom they favored. Well, of course, the Prime Minister.
You hit the nail on the head there, Brother Andy. That is it exactly. And that's why this is so worrisome. He could have waited, let it come to Parliament, let that debate ensue, but he was obviously afraid that certain things would have come to light in Parliament. And that's why I'm saying that Keith Rowley is no less than a dictator. his actions are no less than that of Duvalier, Papa Doc or so, in my opinion. Because you cannot bully
go
a
ahead.
president who basically is emblematic of the republic. She's supposed to be that symbol that we look to. Now she has become a symbol of derision. When she speaks, people talk about not wanting to hear, and that is sad for me, Brother Andy. Given when we hear all these talking heads talking about our Africanness and talking about how we should be proud of this and that. But this is something that should be a concern to our African people, brothers and sisters, that this woman, the President of the Republic, has been bullied by the Prime Minister of the Republic.
And then there are these contentions that she delivered an address on it, but a lot of people find that it was lacking in the substance which she should have addressed on the matter. Correct?
But lacking in substance is very diplomatic, Brother Andy, from you. There was no gravitas to that letter. There was no, as you said, substance. It did not answer. It asked more questions than it gave answers. And that is startling for the President of the Republic so to do. She should have been very forthright and very clear with what happened. She was not. But Keith Rowley provided a clarification a few months later.
Right.
In his hubris, in his desire to, his Rowley's inner. This is not Facebook, and you are very much. I respect you as a journalist. So I will just say, Rowley's inner dictator had to come out, and he came out by himself, unprompted, as I saw Martin George, another prominent attorney, said there was no need for him to come out like he did, but he did. And I say, sometimes your inner dictator, your inner true character, sometimes needs to come out. And his own did, and he said it was me.
Some people would say
intercepted that merit list.
Yeah, some people would say it might be irrepressible. But let's go back on the DPP and his position. So he's not so much as acknowledged the receipt of any one of these 6 appeals to him.
Yes, and in this regard, we have to not really look at the characters involved. Forget it's David Nackett or Andy Johnson or whoever. This is a sitting senator in the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago who has written on a matter of grave concern, something in the public domain, misbehavior in public office by the President of the Republic, the Prime Minister of the Republic, and the Chairman of the Police Service Commission, Bliss Prasad. 6 times I've written, I've outlined in detail what happened, what transpired at the Prime Minister's interview, where he admitted it was him, is in the public domain. I have received no acknowledgement whatsoever of my letters, and I'm not saying that the DPP has to respond to me in every letter, but there are 6 letters being written on a matter of great concern. Now, I've seen the DPP ask the police, the TTPS, the charge people and so forth on matters, I will not say with less gravitas, but certainly this is something of concern to every single citizen of the country. Plus, it is also of concern to those who are worried about the sanctity of our independent institutions, but
yeah, you think that it ranks higher on the list of concerns about what's happening in the public domain than some of the other matters to which the DPP has responded, or about which he has made public his position?
Of course it is, Barani, because this is the symbol of our republic, of our young democracy. We're going to hold somebody to account who steals to provide for his family, maybe. Because there's not always a selfish concern that somebody wants to get rich by stealing and robbing. No. But we're going to hold that man because of the policies of this government, the incompetent, inept policies of this government. The man who has to go and steal now for his family, we hold him to account, criminally so. But we have the Prime Minister, the President, and the Chairman of the Police Service Commission breaking the law, undermining the Constitution. And everybody, including the mainstream media, has gone silent on it. Should we accept that? Then what does that say about us as a so-called independent country? No, we have reduced ourselves to mimic men. And I wish in this case we were mimic men, because all Boris Johnson did was have a party, and they held him to account, and stridently so. But our Prime Minister bullied our President into withdrawing America, broke the law, undermined the Constitution, and there's no ramifications to that. But Andy, we are fooling ourselves if we feel we're on the road to anything but disaster.
Yeah, the other thing is that there's so many issues on the public agenda that sometimes you have to move around from one to the next. So, and in fact, so we are sort of doing service to what you're doing by continuing to keep it as a talking point here. But what do you think will be your ultimate position in the matter? So, like, what might be a next step for you to try and get some answers?
Well, I have set myself a certain target, which of course I will not make known publicly. But in the end, there will have to be probably a judicial review of the DPP and of this matter. Because I need to build my case, whether it is not only to bring in the public domain and to the DPP's attention how important, how necessary this case is to be prosecuted. I need to build that case. And if that involves exposing the DPP or any partiality, God forbid, that he might have, I will do so. There are no sacred cows in a democracy, and there should be none. And everyone is under the law, and everyone has to be treated fairly before the law. And our Prime Minister, until now, has got a free ride from the mainstream media, as you correctly said, but Andy, WESN, your program, tends to keep things in the light that the mainstream media, for some reason, well, I'll be very clear with you. I believe the mainstream media has been bought and sold. Guardian, Express, CNC3, TV6, they are horrible. This is probably the worst we have ever seen our mainstream media. So, yes, I give a lot of thanks and praise to media houses like yours that keep these things in the light. I mean, how? And I mean, it's unfathomable that until now, that the Prime Minister walks about and there is no reference to what he did in misbehaving in public office. It is, for me, unconscionable that Attorney General can lie internationally and still be talking in the Parliament about the dignity of Parliament. I mean, Trinidad has been reduced to a caricature by the behavior of our public office holders. I mean, one line, the Attorney General, Reginald Amor, one bullying the President and the Chairman of the Police Service Commission, and they go about their merry way without scrutiny from the mainstream media. And you have to ask ourselves why. Well, I know why. The media, Sabda Control, Guardian, and OCM Express, they have been bought and sold. I mean, the public has perceived it that way, and it is definitely so.
Well, I don't want to get into any defense of the rest of the media, but they must answer for themselves and so on. But so you're saying that there is another option, there's another route that you are disposed to taking, or that is available for you to pursue this matter, and you are coming to the point where you would go that way.
Yes, well, I've been building the case by the letters. and making it public that these letters have been sent, they have been received by the DPP's office, and we hear some inane comments that the DPP doesn't work for me. He doesn't work for me, but he works for the people of Trinidad and Tobago. And I have been put into the Senate to represent the people of Trinidad and Tobago. And this is not any ego trip by anyone. This is just looking for public accounting and seeking justice for the people of Trinidad and Tobago. This is a matter of public concern and has been so for quite a while. So whether the DPP wants to remain silent and not act upon this, it's not up. Although it's up to his discretion what he decides to alert the TTPS to. I think such a case that has been so clearly ventilated in the public domain, and the actors have pretty much by their actions and their replies to questions, basically accuse themselves and probably more so than their silence. I think this case is worthy of the DPP's attention. I think it is worthy of investigation by the police, and so do a lot of prominent people, lawyers, the judiciary, and so. And the question needs to be asked, when will the DPP, Mr. Roger Gaspard, when will he take some action in this matter? All right.
So you think that I'm just using a phrase here. You might be a proxy for what you suggest is the widespread concern about it among other people in society, among other people in different realms of the estate. And if so, where are those voices on it?
Well, those voices have gone silent. And that is we live in a country now, Brother Andy, where people are afraid to raise their voices and raise their voices consistently. You can come out and say something against something and then you die down, which suits the government because the government talks about our country being a nine. They wonder, where the public quickly forgets what happens. I mean, who's talking about pariah? I mean, we have our divers who were basically left to die by this government and by the pariah board of directors. No one talks about it. Until now, they have not. The commission of inquiry has not been put in place. Who told? Look at Andy, Brother Andy. The Justice Judith Jones report that raised such a furor. Who's talking about those abused kids who are still in those homes, possibly being abused still? Who's talking about Simeon Daniel and Antonio Francois, who were murdered in Lavantil, up by my family's home? Who were murdered up there? Who's talking about them anymore? This government is relying. We have a prime minister. Now the country is in crisis. Murders everywhere, prices skyrocketing, inflation. People cannot afford food. There's a lack of food security. Poor and working class people on the breadline. The union striking. Where is Keith Rowley? Keith Rowley is away. Is he being held to account by the mainstream media, by the voices? Because people are afraid, Andy. This is the first time I have seen Trinidad and Tobago like this, where people are afraid to raise their voices.
You really believe that?
Yes, if I believe so.
Yeah,
yes,
that people are afraid to raise their voices.
I'm not as young as people think. I'm old. I was brought in to this game by your colleague, who I miss, Mr. Keith Smith. And we spoke about that many years ago, that Trinidad and Tobago would reach the point where people were just afraid or comfortable within their own state because they have their little, what we say, kakada, or their little realm or whatever interest to protect. that people will stop to say anything, and that is what has happened. You cannot tell me that Keith Christopher Rowley has not been held to account as of yet concerning his misbehavior in public office and for the many other things that he has done. It is inconceivable to me, Brother.
What do you think? So the letter is calling on the DPP to take action, to trigger something that will bring the Prime Minister, to hold the Prime Minister to account for his actions in the matter. Right?
Of course. But Andy, let me give you an example. If you broke the law, Andy Johnson, from Labantil, I think you're from Mova. I remember you're from.
Well,
you're a neighbor.
That's where I used to live, but I'm from.
Right, I know.
I'm from a village in the deep south called Los Bajo, and the people of Los Bajo will not forgive me if they hear me being described as being from anywhere else. But go ahead.
Exactly. If you had undermined the Constitution, or David Nackett had undermined the Constitution, broken the law, I think we would have been held to account by now. All I am saying to the DPP, I've outlined the details of the matter, of the case. I do not want to put the DPP under undue pressure, but he has to be put under pressure in a matter like this. I mean, and if I have to bring judicial review, I will so do.
Yeah. So what is your response to the question as to whether or not it is your contention that he has broken the law, and that has to be tested, and the process you're going through is to test that, right? But there are people who would argue that is your position. How are you so certain that he broke the law if you don't have the matter go to where that is determined, but which is what you're seeking to do? So your contention is that the Prime Minister has broken the law. That may or may not be the case. Not so?
Exactly, but shouldn't it be investigated?
Well, right, that's what I'm saying. I'm allowing that.
Doesn't matter where the Prime Minister, the President, and the Chairman of one of our independent institutions, in my opinion, broke the law. In my opinion, undermine the Constitution. Shouldn't that at least warrant an investigation by the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service?
Right. And the question is that you can't understand why the DPP refuses to even acknowledge your correspondence and say, well, look,
hasn't acknowledged one, Brother Andy. Not even acknowledged. There hasn't been acknowledgement of a letter. I've written 6. I will write 7, 8, 9, and 10 in due course, and then I will take action based on guidance by the lawyers. And but this, it's amazing to me that if this DPP or the PNM would think or like to think that this was going to go away on my part. I am nothing if not consistent. I am nothing if not a fighter. And I will do so because I think this is something that is of concern to all our citizens, whatever party stripe that they belong to or they wear. It's of concern to all of us. Because if we put the Prime Minister of our country, of our democracy, in a place where he moves with impunity, then we are already seeing the chaos that is enveloping the country.
All right, we have a couple of minutes more left, and I want to ask about the other matter that you raised, which is another issue on the public agenda in a big way, the issue of the Attorney General, so that the party and you all are going to keep up the calls for him to be removed from office.
Yes, this is another embarrassment. I mean, Reginald Amor has done the improbable, let's say probably the impossible, of surpassing Faris Al-Rawi as being inept and incompetent. That's a very difficult hurdle to get over. But he has done so in his very short tenure. And he has placed the country in a very embarrassing situation. He has lied. He admitted he has lied. because there's no way that you could there's no verbal gymnastics that you could have performed and not admit that you lied, especially when everything has been documented.
Yeah, well he didn't offer a mea culpa in that way. He said he put things there based on what he remembered. He couldn't quite remember what the situation was at that time and so on. But he didn't say, well, I lied about it. But that's your interpretation of what he said. But the issue, yeah, go ahead.
Well, it doesn't pass the smell test. It doesn't pass the smell test. As a matter of fact, he embarrasses himself further. Because, it's all about credibility, or the perception of credibility. And especially when you hold such an office, Brother Andy, as you know, it's not only about the credibility aspect, but it's the perception by the public whether they can have trust in that office. And I think that is gone. And I think if this government was really in the interest of the public, which I believe it not to be so, based on their actions, based on their policies, then we know that Reginald Amor fits in very well with Keith Rowley and his cabinet. In other words, they are there for themselves and their benefit.
So you're going to keep up the party then, in the opposition is going to keep up the fire on him, and you have the situation broadening to the point where it's going to be a debate or discussion in the Law Association.
Of course. I mean, we cannot, Brother Andy, as the sworn opposition to this government, we are asked to hold the government to a standard that is at least acceptable to the welfare and benefit of the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. This government has fallen way below that standard by all metrics.
And then we don't have time.
Therefore, we have to keep up that fight.
Right, and you're doing that.
Fight whatever happens.
And I would say again, we have to end there. But there's also the issue of Foster Cummings. So the government, in your view, in the opposition's view, the government is vulnerable on a lot of fronts.
Well, yeah, they were vulnerable before based on their policies, but now we are beginning to see that this government that likes to tout itself as being in service of the people is probably the most corrupt government that we have ever seen. And now we have ministers being involved with gangs and gang leaders. I mean, this government is in a place right now, Brother Andy, given the circumstances and the evidence before the public, that Keith Rowley has no choice but to seek a fresh mandate from the people of Trinidad and Tobago and call a general election.
All right, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you very much, David Nackett, Opposition Senator.
You're welcome, Brother Andy. Thanks for having me.
Take care. All right, fine. So let's go quickly now to the COVID-19 numbers as we head up to the top of the hour. The new positive cases, the totally recovered patients, the people in hospital, and the rest of that. Let's take a look at what the numbers say on this Wednesday morning. 154,989, the total recovered patients. 7,077, the total active positive cases. 3,968, the persons who died in Trinidad and Tobago from COVID-19. 166,053, the total positive cases reported since we began the counting on March 12, 2020. 145 new positive cases reported in the 24 hours up to the end of the day yesterday. And 107, that's the number of persons in hospital dealing with COVID-19. That's a quick look at the numbers. The Newsday poll, the question is, it says, with the declining COVID-19 hospitalization rate and the number of mass fetes at which patrons are unmasked, should the mask mandate be removed? And here's some of the responses quickly. Remove all COVID travel restrictions first, because fet is any and anything. Another response, no, because we have a head clown as the Prime Minister and his circus act making these decisions. I swear this country is an autopilot. A third response, fet most important to organizers and patrons, not providing for survival. Security guards, like they block COVID from entering the venues, and the people who are crying for handouts suddenly have money to continue the mask mandate is pure hypocrisy. And the final response, yes, it should be made voluntary. Whoever wants to continue wearing it, then they should go ahead. That takes us up to the top. We're going to take a break. We have news. Before we get there, while we take a first look around the region of Guyana, they have lifted their COVID-19 testing requirements for travelers, as we hear in this report from Guyana News Source.
Tonight, 1 week after the U.S. announced the removal of COVID-19 testing requirements for persons traveling to the U.S., the Guyana government has followed suit. In a statement today, the Ministry of Health announced that with effect from Saturday, persons traveling to Guyana will no longer be required to provide proof of a negative COVID-19 test result. However, all travelers must show proof of being fully vaccinated against COVID-19. The move by the Ministry of Health comes as it continues to try to get more persons vaccinated against the virus as cases continue to climb. More than 86% of Guyana's adult population has received at least one shot of the COVID-19 vaccine, while 67% of the country's adult population is now fully vaccinated. Minister of Health Dr. Frank Anthony explained the decision made by the ministry.
We felt very comfortable that we can now remove the requirement for antigen or PCR testing. However, we will still maintain for travelers into Guyana, we'll still maintain that they have to produce their vaccination cards before they're allowed on the plane. So that we still have that requirement.
Last weekend, Guyana started the vaccination of children between the ages of 5 and 11 years old. And based on the last COVID-19 report, there are more than 900 active cases of the virus in Guyana. The hospitalization rate remains very low. The pandemic has claimed more than 1,200 lives in the country since its first detection 2 years ago.
All right, we go to Barbados now, where the Prime Minister there, the very ever-popular Mia Mottley, is saying that citizens could receive more relief given what is happening on the ground. Take a this look from Barbados today.
Prime Minister Mia Mottley hints that households could receive some more ease to better cope with rising food and energy prices. She was speaking during a high-level International Monetary Fund panel discussion on building resilience and sustainability in the Caribbean today. The Prime Minister revealed that his Social Partnership Committee was established this week and it will examine what measures can be put in place to further shield residents from spiraling costs.
As it relates to the very, very immediate, as tomorrow, next week, and next month, we're going to still have to provide some level of shielding. We've done it here in Barbados with an initial measure that allowed us to cap the rate of the VAT on the fuel so that we pass through the cost of the fuel, but we at least try to shield you by not taking as much taxes and capping that. Regrettably, we're going to have to look at it again. And as recent as Monday, we set up a committee within our social partnership to look at the underlying increases in food and fuel costs, with an understanding that within 2 weeks there would also be labor, private sector, and government meeting, such that on the 8th of July when we meet back, we put ourselves in a position to take decisions that will help families in this country, particularly since the summer vacation is coming, and we all know that children love to eat a lot of food when they're running about. So that unless families can be helped over the course of the summer, we're not going to be able, and we may have to use the school meals program and other things to continue doing that which they do during term in order to offset some of the initial things. But it's going to need policy space, it's going to need fiscal space.
Well, that takes us up to news time. We take a break for the news at the top of the hour. We'll continue after that. Stay with us.
The Mary Immaculate Prayer Group and Friends presents its prayer breakfast on August 31st in aid of Monsignor Christian Pereira. The prayer breakfast begins from 9 a.m. at the Cathedral of Immaculate Conception. Cost is only $200. Come support the Cup of Gratitude in aid of Monsignor Pereira, August 31st.
Tickets are available at the Parish Office of the Cathedral of Immaculate Conception and the Parish of Our Lady of Perpetual Help.
Seven is out. All day is in. WESN News on the hour.
Every day, we communicate through stories. Stories of ourselves, our challenges, our goals, our experiences, and our aspirations. Storytelling is an art that we have mastered. WESN Film Studios comprises a collaborative team of experts with extensive industry experience locally, regionally, and internationally. The ability of your business to successfully communicate with your preferred audience depends on the strength of the stories you tell. Your vision should be communicated in a high-quality, professional, and creative way. From concept to post-production, advertising to film, multi-camera productions, live events, streaming, and virtual conferencing, we are WESN Film Studio. Let your own unique voice be heard and your vision realized. Call us today at 628-5835 for your next production.
In this season, we talk more about health, wellness, and everything in between. I am so excited to share with you everything about health and wellness so that you can design the life that you've always dreamed of. Join me here on What's Up Doc.
What's Up Doc? Tuesdays and Thursdays here on WESN, Content Capital.
Burning questions, urgent topics. Welcome back to One on One, the show where we tackle the most current and pertinent subjects that are affecting all citizens, where we ask the hard questions and have in-depth conversations. What separates One on One from other talk shows is that the conversation stems from a younger perspective on topics that affect the fabric of our society. One on One, Wednesdays at 10 a.m. on WESN Content Capital.
Join me, Sule A. Joseph, as I delve into the day-to-day psychological issues plaguing our society. We will discuss behaviors that encompass the biological influences, social pressures, and environmental factors that affect how you think, act, and feel. Sight, Thursdays at 11 a.m. only on WESN, Content Capital.
Let your voice be heard. Call Madam Fix It on WESN, the only place that effectively helps you with your woes. Having problems getting onto government agencies, water woes, NIS and pension problems, potholes, and much, much more. Call me, Madam Fix It, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, right here on WESN. Let me fix it for you.
People of Blanchisseries and environs, something big is coming your way. Be part of the initial membership drive for the establishment of the North Coast Credit Union Cooperative Society Limited this Sunday, 26th June at 2 p.m. sharp at the Blanchisseries Community Center. Walk with $100 and your ID card. For more information, call 783-1971.
Every word, every line, every paragraph depicts a real moment in someone's life. A father, a sister, a mother, a brother. We at Newsday are dedicated to you, the people, and through independent, unwavering journalism, strive to always bring your stories to life. Because your stories are more than just words. Newsday, independent and credible.
Knowing how to tell authentic is as easy as 1, 2, 3. Find it, match it, search it. Step 1. Find the style number on the tag. Step 2. Match the style number inside the jersey with the number on the tag. Step 3. Search it. A quick Google search of the style number will verify the jersey is authentic when the search results match the jersey being searched. Don't be fooled by counterfeit jerseys. Before you buy, remember to find it, match it, search it.
Fan Zone, 2 locations nationwide. Center City Mall, Chaguanas and Movietown, Port of Spain. Nationwide delivery available.
Join me, Sule A. Joseph, as I delve into the day-to-day psychological issues plaguing our society. We will discuss behaviors that encompass the biological influences, social pressures, and environmental factors that affect how you think, act, and feel. Site, Thursdays at 11 a.m., only on WESN, Content Capital.
Let your voice be heard. Call Madam Fix It on WESN, the only place that effectively helps you with your woes. Having problems getting onto government agencies, water woes, NIS and pension problems, potholes, and much, much more. Call me, Madam Fix It, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, right here on WESN. Let me fix it for you.
We're on set with a strength and conditioning coach. His name is Mr. Gregory Seal, and he's going to talk to us a little bit about what strength and conditioning means.
For instance, in the EPL or the La Liga, where it's so high, and I'm constantly hearing young people saying that they want to play in these leagues, but these leagues are demanding physically. So if you're not preparing your bodies for that early, you're not going to make it.
But we also use it as a form of fatigue monitoring.
What's Up Doc? Tuesdays and Thursdays here on WESN, Content Capital.
Welcome back to the program. With us now, Mr. Leo Ramkisuni is president of the Fire Services Association, one of the trade unions representing workers in this matter of the negotiations with the CPO for salary increases. What is his position? What is the association's position? Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Andy.
We're having some I'm asked to ask you to take the Bluetooth off because it's giving us some feedback. You've done that. All right. So the situation is, where is the Fire Service Association at this point with these negotiations with the CPO?
Well, at this point, we are waiting further response, given that the last counter proposal given by the CPO was, for all intents and purposes, rejected by us.
That's the 4%.
Of course, we want to formally provide a written response to the CPO, but by and large, during the meeting, we would have indicated quite clearly that the offer of the 4% over the 6-year period, 2% in 2016 and 2% in 2019, is not nearly adequate to satisfy the negotiating process and to satisfy the intention of our membership in terms of how they see this process going forward.
All right. What do you respond to the Prime Minister's continuing intervention in the matter, at least from the point of view of making statements, trying to put the situation in some kind of context? He says that if there's an agreement at 4%, he said how much money the government will have to borrow to meet these payments. Is that something but clearly that doesn't resonate either with your people or with the rest of the trade union movement at all, right?
I didn't get the first part of what you asked. Could you just repeat the question?
Yeah, so the Prime Minister is saying that if there's an agreement by anybody on 4%, he gave a figure, I think it's 25, I don't want to call the figure out of my head, but he says the government will have to borrow money to meet those payments. And the question is, my feeling is that he's saying these things, asking for greater understanding of the government's position by you all, by the leadership of the unions representing these workers. What's your response to that?
Andy, I am of the firm understanding that workers in this country and my membership would be willing to take into consideration genuine constraints that are presented, economic constraints that is on the government. However, we cannot take what the government is saying in this regard, in this process, at this stage, to be true and to be genuine. And I want to remind all and sundry that the same government that has now announced via international media and CNN, they have gone to the parliament, they have made pronouncements in the parliament that the government is now experiencing something of a windfall. They have also clearly deposited funds into the Heritage and Stabilization Fund, so that is an indicator. Aside from that, Andy, this very government would have increased their own income. Even before this fall, in 2019, they afforded themselves an indexed pension that saw an increase in their income for life. We don't even consider that really a pension. It's just the gift that keeps on giving, because they serve an amount of time in the parliament and then they continue to receive income that is equivalent to a salary, inclusive of the consolidation of house and personal allowances and so on. And this same government that would have given themselves that treat are now pontificating to us that they are in such a desperate situation that they would have to borrow monies to pay workers and so on. But their announcements via the international media that when they were asked what they would do with the windfall is that they would pay bills. Well, we are saying the most important bill to be paid is to workers in the country at this stage.
Right.
So I think 4% is not sufficient. We need to have more dialogue. They need to convince us, and they need to take on board the realities. Because you see, as of today, the price of bread, the price of flour has gone up, and the cost of living continues to go up. So what they are asking us to accept, Andy, is actually a wage cut. A 4% is a wage cut, because applying 4% to my income, which equates to about $150 to $200 over 6 years, you are telling me to accept $150 or $200 over 6 years when you have given yourself tens of thousands of dollars increase per month. And that is widening the gap. I can't go to the bank, my members can't go to the bank and look to see if they could purchase a home. Even if they get through at HDC, they can't afford to pay for a HDC home. They can't afford to live. So, there are too many implications with this offer that is on the table that are deleterious to the livelihood of my members, and we cannot accept this at this stage.
Okay, give us a sense of what happens around the table. So you all went to the second round of discussions with the CPO, right? And how does he present the matter? He comes and says, well, ladies and gentlemen, so this is what this is how we want to adjust the figures. So we're putting 4% on the table. What happens? Do you all haggle over it? Do you argue, or you get up and say, well, look, that is not enough, and you walk out?
No. Our method of negotiation, Andy, is one that we always do our endeavor best to facilitate dialogue. So the CPO would have spent an inordinate amount of time laying out the case for the state in terms of the state's view of the economic realities, and we would have put forward quite possibly an equivalent amount of time laying out our arguments that counteract that. So it was a negotiation in the true sense in terms of both sides putting forward our opposing views. However, we could not come to an agreement. One area that we found to be disingenuous on the part of the CPO, however, is that the CPO resorted to make subtle threats. So the CPO was indicating to us that he would not hesitate, those are his words, he would not hesitate to refer this matter to the minister for onward transmission to the courts. And we found that to be, unnecessary. It was a sort of a bullying tactic at this stage because you are now introducing 4%. And without us having the opportunity to take that back to our membership, our principals, you are already laying threats against us. When you know we waited 9 years to get to this stage and you are already laying threats. So we found that to be a real bullying tactic. I was sort of shocked. But nonetheless, I would have indicated to the CPO that we are not fazed by that tactic. We are not fazed by those subtle threats. We are confident that good sense must prevail because in the alternative to that good sense prevailing, I think this government has to look at the realities of whether they wish to stay in charge of the economy.
What do you see sort of immediately up ahead? Are we heading into a period of industrial unrest and turmoil, you think?
I think that we have a healthy democracy. I think that the unions are quite active and are quite vociferous in terms of representing workers. However, I think that the unions are also quite responsible, and we represent the views of the workers in accordance with the provisions of law. So as long as there is the rule of law and that prevails, then I think the process will go forward. However, we have a government that is taken to Twitter and social media platforms, as we see Minister Imbert and others going to Twitter and so on, and fighting the unions that represent the very workers that uphold the state and uphold the economy. They are fighting us as if we are a political adversary. So they are placing the workers in a position where we have no choice but to also engage the public, because the public is being placed at risk. And Andy, I want to really bring home that point, because we are fire service. And as it stands right now, the fire service, for example, right here in the northern division of the fire service, that is between Sangre Grande and Chagaramas, we have 5 fire stations out of 11 operating, 5 fire stations that are responding to the public. We have 6 stations that are not responding to the public because there is no truck at those stations to respond to the public. Aside from that, at those 5 stations that are responding, there are only 4 breathing apparatus sets. I want to make sure you understand what that means. 4 breathing apparatus. You're supposed to have at least 4 breathing apparatus sets on a truck. That is one of those sets is what the officer wears to go in to rescue persons in fires and to save lives. Without it, he could only stand outside and throw water, and he would not be able to really engage in intimate firefighting. So when we are in this position where the state is not providing the allocated funds for the fire service to treat with itself, and officers' health are being placed at risk, and not to mention the public. And then we have a government is now pontificating to us that they are unable, they could only borrow money to treat with us while they enrich themselves, while they themselves would have given themselves hefty pensions. We can't accept what is happening in this country.
All right, go back on that explanation. You say 5 out of 11 tenders across the Northern Division are what you're operating with. You say, when you say 4 of these breeding apparatus, you mean 4 across the division or?
Across the entire division, Andy. So I have 2 breeding apparatus sets in headquarters when I should have at least 8 available with many spares. We have 2 breeding apparatus sets in the headquarters, 1 truck. We have 2 in I believe in San Juan Fire Station. So the reality is we have 4 breeding apparatus sets, and I remind you, when I spoke about this in January of this year, publicly, after the child perished in a fire on the beat up, I spoke on it live on a news station, and they brought the minister on, and the minister spoke live and condemned my statements and dispatched my statements and said to the public that problem is practically rectified and everything will be okay and there is nothing to be concerned about. Well, I have to remind the minister this morning that today it's even worse. It's much worse. This is the worst the fire service has ever been in. Worst condition I have seen, and from those who went before me are telling me the same. It's the worst. I mean, this government, I mean, we are in a... Andy, I am on the verge personally, I am on the verge of taking to the streets on a personal level, daily basis, because what we are calling for as the Fire Service Association is some type of an international intervention, possibly from the U.S. government or somebody to assist. Because the fire service, not one day we should go to rest with our fire service in this condition, because the country is at risk, our airports is at risk, our communities across Trinidad and Tobago is at risk. And this is not acceptable whatsoever. We quietly sitting down and letting this happen. No, that is madness.
So quite apart from the salary issues, there's a lot to be done regarding equipment. I was going to say plant and equipment and facilities for you all to work, the apparatus.
Yes, you see, Andy, let me just make the point. Officers, every time they go into a fire, and we get fires every day, when they go into that fire, they're inhaling smoke. They have no breathing apparatus sets, so they are absorbing smoke through their respiratory system as well as through their skin. When they sweat, it goes through their pores. And over time, what the science is saying is that they will die and they will suffer long-term illnesses in their old age. So officers are giving up their lives based on the exposure to chemical hazards and other hazardous materials, and are being told on top of that we will give you $150 increase over 6 years to reduce your buying power, when in fact your buying power would have been reduced to close to $2,000. Close to $2,000 reduction in your buying power of your salary. So, I mean, Andy, in the wider context, officers are deeply angered by the position of the state to even start at 2% and then only move to 4% and then lay threats that they want to take this to the courts. Officers are very, very angry about that.
Now we'll go back on
I could tell you that is across the protective services. That is not just the fire service. I could tell you it's across the protective services.
All right, so that's what I'm asking. Where could this lead in terms of industrial relations, industrial peace? Is there any industrial peace now, and will it get worse? It looks that way.
Sorry, Andy, I didn't get you fully. Could you repeat?
I'm trying to get a sense of where we are on sort of the trajectory about industrial peace in the country. We in a state of jeopardy, you believe, given the actualities of doing the work with the strain of working with outdated salaries, and you see the threat of being taken to the industrial court. That doesn't add up to a hopeful situation at all.
Correct, and I think the ball is in the court of the government. I think the ball is in the Prime Minister's court. I think the ball is in the Minister of Finance's court and the Cabinet court, because the Joint Trade Union Movement, as you would be aware, we passed a motion of no confidence at Workers' Parliament on Labor Day, June 19th, in Faizabad. And on Friday, the 24th, the leadership of each union intend on delivering those documents that document the motion that was carried unanimously at the Labor Day celebrations to the highest office holder, that is the president, as well as all the relevant parties on Friday. So I've seen commentators speak to it being not having a binding effect on the state. Well, I think it may have very much a binding effect when it reaches into the court of public opinion, because and this may have international implications. But I'm saying at this stage, Andy, the state needs to act, and it needs to act now. And one good way to act is to come to the table, come to the negotiating table in good faith. There is a scientific process that determines salaries, and we are aware what that process would have resulted in, getting that initial information from the personnel department, and they need to get closer to what that scientific process is saying, and work with us in that regard. Take into consideration the cost of living. They must close the gap between those of us in the lower stratus of the society and themselves who are at the higher. What they are doing is widening the gap between the rich and the poor. And that cannot be accepted whatsoever. You can't tell us to take a cut while you are living lavishly and you are continuing to live the high life. You are willing to shoulder any burden. No, we can't accept that.
You think you conscientiously conclude that members of parliament are among the rich in the country?
Andy, I have in front of me here right now an article, and I would read the headline of the article. This is Ria Tape, June 7, 2019. President, members of parliament, judges to get pension increase. Better pensions for the big boys. This is in 2019, you know. This is during, we had not seen a recovery in oil prices as yet. We had seen nothing. What they did is actually take their pension and created legislation, brought to the parliament and passed legislation that ensured that their pension after serving 5 years will increase automatically every 5 years to equate to a sitting member of parliament or minister's salary every 5 years until whenever they depart. And depart, I mean by death, I mean by pension emoluments. And I'm saying that also takes into consideration, it also consolidates their housing allowance. And mind you, the housing allowance of a minister is 3 and 4, and in some cases 5 times the salary of a fire officer who's risking his life every day out there. So whilst I respect office holders in that are running government, and that you would have a salary structure that places, you know, a differentiation in position, it cannot be so wide, Andy, that you have taken yourself to living lavishly while those of us below are experiencing severe wage cuts that remove the ability from us to be able to take care of our families, to put a roof over our heads, and to live our daily lives.
All right, we're going to have to continue this discussion. You've been very impassioned about it, Mr. Ramkisoon. We have to leave it there. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, Andy. Thanks for having me.
All right, Leo Ramkisoon, President of the Fire Services Association. It's rough days ahead, it appears to be in this case. Well, we're going to take you all to the watch this, and this one has some kind of a connection to what we've been talking about. Thousands of workers in Belgium were marching through the streets of Brussels, the capital, yesterday protesting rising costs. Take a look at this. And that's our broadcast for this Wednesday morning. We want to thank you for watching. We want to thank our guests, and we tell you that you could always keep in touch with us here at AM Prime. You can send your messages to amprime@wesncc.com. You can check us out on all our social media platforms. That's our program for this morning. Coming up in just about half an hour, the news at the top of the hour, followed by today's edition of Talking Point with Shah and Small. Also, just to briefly tell you what's in the papers this morning. In the Newsday, all three newspapers will have this on the front page. The cost of flour has gone up again because of what is happening here and elsewhere in the world. On the back page, we have the talent. Jones believes in Women's Warriors World Cup challenges. In the Newsday, Tobago end all THA contract work. An ex-assemblyman is saying that, Mr. Max James, he's saying that move back to giving people permanent employment, scrap this business with the culture of contract work. These things and more in these publications, the Newsday Trinidad and Tobago and the Newsday Tobago. We will see you tomorrow. Stay with us.